It's so important for people to have a purpose in life and know what they're trying to do, and then go out there and rally troops to the purpose and say, let's go, And then, of course, have like cheerleaders behind you. You're like, let's do this, let's do this great thing and impact the world for good. That's what you have to have, to make these things happen.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Good Business. Guys, I'm so honored to have my bride, Emilee, and my co-host, James Hall, on this episode today. We're going to be talking about mission and purpose, and we're going to be talking about what the journey has been to get us to where we have really honed in on that purpose. It's hard to find purpose in business. Quite often, the purpose that we choose tends to be some sort of money goal or very tangible achievement tied to the finances of your business. But in reality, that is not a good goal. That is a terrible purpose because we are meant to steward so much more than the finances. We have our team. We have whatever it is that we produce, whether it's a service or a product. We have all of that at our disposal. And as good leaders, we want to make sure that we're stewarding that well. And so today we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about a big announcement that we're excited to be sharing here from the heart of Good Agency and Good Studios. And I'll actually hand it off to James. He's going to be taking it away.
I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to talking with y'all and kind of going over Clay, everything you just talked about. So I actually want to start at the beginning, if that's all right. And I specifically asked Clay a question.
All right.
Clay, at one point, Emilee here was, encouraging you to quit your job and go full time into storytelling, and so I'm just kind of curious, how did that shape the trajectory of your entrepreneurial journey? I mean, there's a lot in that. Being like, hey, quit that day job and
how long do we have?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, so Emilee, she and I got married in January of 2016. And up until then, she honestly didn't even know what I did. When we first got married, she was like, he makes money and he can afford to pay for everything. I think he works at a heating company. No, She knew more than that. But the reality is, she didn't realize my level of commitment to my side hustles, of doing weddings at the time and taking any corporate gig I could get. And I'd been doing Reverent Media since 2008. Prior to that, I was just a crew for hire on film sets and all that kind of stuff, as low on the totem pole as you can imagine. Production assistant, assistant to the production assistant,
yeah, sure.
Kind of thing. And so I loved film, I loved storytelling, but I didn't know how to make it pay the bills. I didn't know how to make it really help me thrive. And frankly, I didn't have any confidence. I had done it for so long. I didn't have confidence to charge what I thought I was worth. I didn't have confidence that I was even good at what I did. And so I'd done it for free for nonprofits. I'd done a mini doc in Jamaica and several films in Haiti, and one for an orphanage and really a rehab center in Africa. And so I'd been using my skill sets for a while, but I had not really ever turned it into a business outside of just the one-off weddings for friends and what have you. So when Emilee and I got married in 2016, she quickly learned that I was not in a healthy place when it came to my job.
Yep.
Maybe I'm not the best person to share this story, but needless to say, she encouraged me to quit.
Yeah.
And not that she was just like, oh, quit, they're the terrible people. No, she knew what I wanted to do, and she wanted me to be happy and to be pursuing what I loved. And she gave me the confidence to do do that.
Which is fantastic. So, Emilee, tell me a little bit about your side.
Yeah,
of that
what's your
story.
side of the story?
Yeah, I'd love to hear your side.
Did I tell any fibs there?
Well, Clay thrives on like meaningful. Like he thrives on his life being a legacy, and just like deep connections, and so he needs that drive and motivation. And if he doesn't have that, he becomes miserable. So I didn't want to be in a marriage where he would be miserable at his work. And so I kind of saw like two roads here, where there was one where he had just a normal, stable job where we made good money. And then there was another road that we just like had to trust God, because we didn't know what was going to happen. And, you just start a company and see what happens. And so I trusted his heart and his efforts. I knew that he would work hard. And so, I wanted to support him, because, no amount of money is going to help you in your marriage if you're not happy with where you're at in life and what you're doing. So that was kind of my push of like, this is the road I want to go on. And and I would say, like, I think when I look back at like just as going on that journey, what really just kept me pushing through was I knew that he would give up anything for me. Like, if I knew that, it was going to be hard going full time into his dreams and pursuing that, but when it was all said and done, I knew that he would give it all up for me. And so I don't want him to, but just having that, like, being on the same page emotionally to start off, and having that is enough for me, because I know that we both would sacrifice for each other. And so, that's a huge deal that we were able to start off on the same page and both say, okay, let's go into this and let's dive into this together. And one wasn't saying, no, I don't want you to do that. We were both in it together, and that was just a good way to start off.
Yeah. So I guess, along those lines, people who are listening right now, I mean, they're similar. Some of them are at the point where y'all were. So what type of advice would y'all give to young spouses where, one of them's got this entrepreneurial spirit and they need to go out and they need to do this mission? What would you tell some of those folks, looking back at y'all's history in regards to being on the same page and talking about, making that journey happen?
Who goes first?
Oh, I don't know.
rock, paper, scissors?
No. Let's go with you, Emilee. What's kind of your point of view?
I mean, I'd say just being emotionally on the same page. Like I said, if you're starting off, make sure that y'all both are in support of each other, and if you're not, then figure that out and work through that together. And be prepared mentally. Prepare yourself, because there's going to be trials that come. It's going to be hard work, and it's just, you have to prepare yourself mentally. Like I knew going into it, okay, starting a business, I've heard people go through all these horrible things. Like I knew it was going to be hard. I knew the time was going to be taken away from us. And so I was kind of mentally preparing myself for that. But also, like, you're going through those trials together, and you can choose to go through it together, so you're not preparing in your mind to fail. You're preparing, you start off just rooting for each other and like you're going to win and believing you're going to win. And, but also just, mentally and emotionally being prepared for the hard times and being ready to do it together, not separate. Whether one has a different job and a different schedule, like, you still can be on the same page emotionally and know that each other's there for each other. So
that's wonderful. What are your thoughts, Clay?
Well, so obviously, Emilee, I couldn't agree more with what she said. From the guy's perspective, more of hindsight, what I wish I had done, not rather what I did so perfectly, was I think communication is really important in any marriage, but over communicating is probably something that should be planned for, about how you're doing, where you're at with the finances, where the company is headed, how each of y'all are doing health-wise, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I wish I had been, and even now, I mean, it's a constant tug of war. I don't think of this concept of work-life balance as a thing. It's not a work-life balance. It's impossible to have balance like that. But what I do think is you can be on the same page.
Yeah.
And I think that's the goal. You need to be on the same page. So if you are saying, hey, my priority right now is we're gonna push through this season in business to get it to this level. Well, get it to that level and it's okay to slow down. Like it's okay to not just set another business goal and say, all right, well now to the next level, because then you'll always be putting that as priority.
Oof,
and
that's great.
And you've got to make sure that you are honest with yourself and honest with your spouse about where you're at. And I also want to speak to those. Emilee and I, we've been blessed for her to not have to work, and that's allowed her to focus on the kids and on other passions. But I know eventually she wants to get back to work.
Yeah.
And eventually she wants to be able to serve. And I mean, she's already working towards that. But you just need to keep that in mind too. Make sure that y'all are in open dialogue about that, so that it's not just the chain of being at the house the whole time. Not that it's a bad thing, but sometimes that's what happens is I go off to work and she's with the kids, and with young kids, it's tough. And
it is.
I'm literally every day, all I do is think about, oh my gosh, I was with the kids all Saturday and I'm exhausted, and she's with the kids all week.
How true is that? Huh?
So I really am conscientious of that, and I try. Obviously, I'm not perfect at it, but I would encourage any business leader, whether your spouse works or not, just make sure that you're conscientious of the toll that your investment into the business is taking on your spouse.
That's great.
So
that's really good. Yeah. So words of gold. I thank y'all so much for sharing that. I think about our listeners, and so many people handle their interpersonal dynamics so differently, Yeah. And but y'all are both believers, and y'all lean on that. So I would love to hear about how that plays a role in y'all's relationship as entrepreneurs, together. I know that people who are listening, whether they're nonprofit leaders, pastors, business owners, they are basically asking themselves, like, how do I navigate these waters and help move it forward from a faith standpoint? So, Emilee, I'd love to hear kind of how has faith played a role in the life y'all have been living since entrepreneurship kicked in?
That's a great question. And I mean, faith is literally everything to us. And it's, we give God all the praise for everything our business has ever done. Like, yes, he's a hard worker, but without God, it would have all come crashing down. Yep. And so that's something that we said from the very beginning. One of the things, I think I've mentioned this before in the past, but I remember very vividly my prayer when we first started, trying to grow one of the businesses was like, God, if there's anything that it gets unhealthy in our marriage or in our company that doesn't honor you, just please destroy it. Don't let us be successful. And that was my prayer to start off with. And so it still is, and it's very we have this. We try to live with the healthy fear of hey, if we let bad stuff in, we're not going to be blessed by that.
Don't steward this well.
Yeah, and so that's huge to us. One thing that comes to mind is always pride for me in companies, and when you're just in work and life in general and relationships. The Bible says pride comes before destruction and an arrogant spirit before a fall. But then God says, humble yourself before the mighty hand of God and he will raise you up. And so, we believe that our faith is the reason why we do everything the way we do. And it's why I trust him, and why he has the integrity he does is because of that. That's what it's grounded on. So we always circle around, that's one thing we circle around in our relationship and just with the company is hey, is there any pride getting in the way? Because we can't do it with, we cannot do it. I mean, everyone deals with that, but we really can't, we can't be successful without the Lord's hand on it. And so he's gives us purpose for everything we're doing. And, you can always use your business for good. So that's where our faith comes in.
Yeah. So real quick, I want to jump into that. So people change over time, right? And so faith, of course, is always, moving us ideally closer to the Lord. And Clay, I've worked with him for many years. And so now I get to ask you this really great question, which is how have you seen Clay change from the beginning? Yeah, Clay's like, no. I've been going a little bit off script here, but I'm totally cool with that. So when it comes to the changes,
Roast
from,
section.
So here we go. That's why we put him in the middle, So when it comes to the changes that happen in an entrepreneur from day one and to who he is today, and anybody listening, I mean, you've seen it, I'm sure. Like, what can you tell us a little bit about Clay's transformations that you've seen over time? If you want to hit just a couple of them, that's fine, or just one. But I just kind of want to share this because people who are listening are like, I feel like I've changed so much over the years, and it's maybe normal. So I'd love to hear kind of what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think growing a business will change you. It will probably change your personality, but if you start veering the wrong way, you can always get back on track, and there's always hope there. But I guess I've just seen Clay, just his drive become stronger every year. He has a reason to, when he wakes up and goes to work, it's for a greater purpose, and that drive has just, I've seen that grow a lot in him. I think there's been seasons where we went through really difficult times in the business, and I've seen him really stressed out, and we've had to work through things, and I think in the end that can grow your relationship if you work through it. But I've seen him change as a CEO, because he's just such a sweet person, and you have to be tough. So I've seen him have to get tougher. And so that's been, I think God's used that. But it's been a journey for sure. I don't know if that answered it.
No, I appreciate that. Well, I think a lot of times people wake up one day and they're like, the person who I married is very different than the person I'm with today, and they're not sure how they feel about it. It maybe not necessarily that it's good or bad. It's just you're just a little bit different, and it's because the forging of fires makes us, changes us.
We've had those conversations. I'm like, but you used to do this.
Yeah,
you used to.
No, for sure. Well, y'all have a mutual passion, I guess is the right word, and y'all want to help a lot on the front of human trafficking, which is just more and more becoming, unfortunately, more and more right in front of our face in society. And so I'd kind of love to hear both of y'all's backgrounds. Emilee, I've been asking you a lot of questions, so I'll ask Clay. Kind of what's your background and your passion for the subject of human trafficking? I'd love to hear.
Well, obviously, very heavy subject, and right now it's in the news a lot. I mean, in 2023, there was a film that came out called Sound of Freedom, which has brought awareness to a lot of folks who were kind of in the dark on that. Incredibly hard film to watch, but we've been very well aware of this problem for some time now, and it's something that we've been passionate about and trying to make a difference however we can. But I was first introduced to this concept back in the mid-2000s. There was one of my favorite bands, Switchfoot, way back in the day. They were doing a tour, and they were going to churches and with a bunch of other artists. I think some of the guys from DC Talk were there and what have you. And they had me there as a promoter. Me, a homeschooler in sophomore year or something like that of high school, was a promoter. But I was trying to bring about awareness to a documentary film that Switchfoot had made about human trafficking over in the Southeast Asia. And so that was where I was first introduced to it. But that season of life didn't really connect Southeast Asia to home.
Sure.
And so over the years, it's become even more apparent through our church in Houston. There was one Sunday, one of the members of our church had been kidnapped in the Walmart parking lot, and they trafficked her.
Wow.
And the local sheriff got her in one of the hotels in the Woodlands Waterway, and like a day or so before she was supposed to be shipped off to New York. And so when that happened, it connected a lot of dots for me, because in Haiti, when I was living in Haiti, kids were being trafficked all the time, because after the earthquake, there were a lot of orphans, And so they were being trafficked through faux orphanages. They were being trafficked locally, crossing the border into the Dominican Republic. And so that's one of my reasons behind my mission to Haiti was specifically focused on youth and at-risk youth. And likewise in Kingston, it was happening all the time. Kids were being taken or simply sold by their parents just to be able to pay the bills. And so it was a very dark thing that I was slowly being exposed to. And it was kind of so big that I didn't know what to do with it. Yeah. And so that's how I was introduced to it and why it's become such a real thing close to home. Sure. And anyway, I know we're going to talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I want to
hear.
further.
I'd love to hear from you, Emilee. Your history with the subject.
Well, I don't know the pain of someone who's been through sex trafficking, but I have my own personal story of just trauma that I've been through as a child, and so God's used that to fuel my passion and fuel my empathy for others, and so I've come to be very thankful for that I can use that for good. But I've always had this like perspective of that, of evil in the world, that, it's from the enemy came to kill, steal, and destroy. But Jesus came that we can have life and have freedom. So, the enemy's cheap and he goes after kids because they're weak. And so, if you can reach kids get kids when they're little, mess them up, then they're not you can't use them for good as much when they're older. And so that's the devil's, scheme there. And so that's just always, since I was a little girl, been on my heart that if we can get kids when they're young, and help them when they're young, that can change their lives. And now you have, I think it's 1 in every 3 people. Years ago, that was the statistic. 1 in every 3 people is sexually abused. So, I think that everyone is just usually in their own trauma that they either don't want to think about it or, they either just aren't aware of it, don't want to think about it, or, I don't know. So I think people just don't think about going outside of themselves and helping these kids all over the world that, or like Clay said, it's like, that's too big. How do I get involved in that? Yeah. But one of my favorite things is that, that what the enemy uses for evil, God can use for good. And so for me personally, like I was just ingrained with this fighting spirit that I want to use what's happened in my life. Like, I don't want the devil to win. Like, I don't want to, like, I'd rather be a fighter and use that for good. So then, what can we do to use our stories for good, or to fight the evil in the world, And we have an opportunity just with our company, like, no matter who you are out there, what company you have an opportunity to use your resources to help these kids. So, we can all be a part. Even if it's giving to the right organization that's rescuing these kids, once a month, like I think everyone can play a role in it, and you don't have to feel like there's nothing you can do, because we can. God's called us to do it.
Yeah. And so, I mean, one thing that I've always, so Clay, specifically to you, I've always respected about you is that you look at your business and businesses over the years, and you say things like, money's a bad goal. And I agree, it's a terrible goal, and you really live it out, right? And you put your dollars where your mouth is when it comes to passion and purpose and mission in these things. So tell me a little bit about why, as a business owner, maybe for the guys that are listening, everybody that's listening in right now, it's like, why? Why did you, from day one, say this is not about these companies I'm doing and what I'm doing here is not about money? It's about something more. Like, why go mission minded in the business space versus so many people who literally just wake up every day and they're like, I'm making money, and that's what I'm doing. Like, what was your heart behind that?
Well, because I know that money's going to burn.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know that anything that we acquire in this world for our own selfish gain, it's going to be gone, and it's not going to come with me. And why? Why would I? There's literally nothing more important than living out the gospel. There's nothing more important. And what better way than to build up a machine that allows you to do that at scale?
Yeah.
Like that is why. It's because if I mean, yes, I could be just a man with one talent, and I donate $10 a month to a group like International Justice Mission, IJM.
Yeah.
That's fine, and that is a wonderful thing to do. But why not build something that can donate $1 million a month to be able to change even more lives? And I want to be in the thick of it. I don't want to be just one cog in the wheel. I want to be making a difference and leaving an impact. And that's why our purpose at Good Agency and Good Studios, and frankly, my purpose in life is to impact the world for good. I mean, God's very first description of something, and you'll probably hear me say this a lot, but when God created the heavens and the earth, he spent 6 days and he made everything that we know of that exists. Everything. I mean, sun, the moon, the stars, the dirt beneath our feet, and us, humans. And you know what he said? He didn't say, wow, I'm awesome. He didn't say, that's so beautiful. That's great. That's so creative. He said, no, that's good. And so if God used the word good to describe the greatest thing that he had ever accomplished, then why would I try to describe what our goal is any way different? It's because we want to do good and to be a reflection of Christ on the world. And whatever that might look like, if God takes everything away and allows everything to burn that we have tomorrow, my purpose will still be the same. If I no longer am in the film and the marketing space and I jump and I start, selling, clothespins, I'm going to make sure that I sell those clothespins to the glory of God and I impact the world for good through it. And that's why. That's the purpose.
Yeah, and people need to find their purpose, you know. And so if you're listening, I encourage anybody listening right now, like find your purpose, because when you have purpose, when you wake up and you put your feet on the floor, you know where you're going toward. You know where the battlefield's at, and you're like, I'm going for this. You know, and I think a lot of leaders out there, unfortunately, don't have purpose, or they've never taken the time to sit down and ask, what is my purpose? You know,
why am I here?
Yes. And it's so important. It's so important for people to have a purpose in life and know what they're trying to do, and then go out there and rally troops to the purpose and say, let's go, you know? And then of course have like cheerleaders behind you. You're like, let's do this, let's do this great thing and impact the world for good. That's what you have to have, to make these things happen. All right. Well, I'm gonna stop rambling a little bit, and I'm really excited to talk about the exciting news. Okay. So Clay, please talk to us a little bit about this wonderful grant program that's happening here at Good Agency and Studios. I'd love to hear about it.
Super excited. Okay, so and just so you know, we're not saying any of this to like prop ourselves up.
No,
We're using this platform that God has given us to share what's going on. And so what we're excited, just as a dip in our toe in the water, we've been donating to nonprofit organizations that are actively fighting human trafficking for years, but today, we've seen that money is great, but I mean, I believe in the work that my team does at Good Agency and Good Studios. Our team, the crew behind every one of these cameras, they are incredible at what they do. They are incredibly talented. They're gifted. And we know that stories move people to action, whether it's in writing, whether it's in video, whether it's in any other format. Stories move people to take action. Good stories do.
That's a true story.
Good stories.
Good
there we
stories.
go. Hey, there's my dad joke for the day. All right.
You gotta have one.
And so with that being said, we feel like we can make a huge impact by rolling out a grant program for nonprofits that are actively fighting human trafficking. And this is a marketing grant program. So we're opening up an initial $100,000 marketing grant that we're offering, that we're going to open up applications very soon, and then we're going to be announcing the 2023 and 2024 plan for who is actually going to be receiving that. But we want to work with organizations that are prepared to be worked with.
Sure.
So we want to help the small nonprofits that are just getting going. But normally, in our own experience, those nonprofits have a little bit more work to do before they're ready to actively engage with a marketing agency.
Yes.
One that can take that mission that they're on and amplify it. And so what we're looking to work with is a nonprofit organization that's been around for some time and has a proven track record of actually making a difference, and is simply just ready to make a bigger difference. And so we believe that $100,000 is just the tip of the spear. It's a starting point, but what we'll do is we'll initiate by helping them with what we call marketing blueprint, which is analyzing what they're trying to accomplish, helping them develop clear messaging for their brand. And if they already have clear messaging, great. Well, we'll help make sure that is going to be translatable into every format, video and everything. And then we'll make sure that their digital presence is ready to go, and then help them amplify that digital presence so that they can make that impact. And that's really what our true mission at Good Agency isn't, just to impact the world for good, but we believe that there's a lot of groups in business. Let me say that one more time. We believe that there's a lack of understanding of what integrity actually is in business. Yeah. And so unfortunately in the marketing space that happens a lot. And so we want to work with values-driven business leaders and nonprofit leaders who are actively making a difference, who align with our values, and who have a desire to make that impact on the world. And we want to be that extra energy that comes behind their mission and supports them. And so right now, I mean, we really we don't know who that is. We're praying that person, that organization to us.
Sure.
But we're just so excited to be able to do this. We've worked with nonprofits in the past, but the thing is, like, we want to make sure that we're working with one who is ready for us to come in and help them make that difference. So.
Yeah, because I mean, I think anybody who's listened to this podcast for a while, you know that like growth can hurt you if you go too fast. Yep. And so aligning timelines and all those types of things in regards to like being able to take on this type of grant to grow is essential. Yeah. And I'm really excited about it because those strategies are just, man, those things are great. Yeah. Those blueprints. I love looking at them because there's just so much detail that goes into them to help them really know how to get where they're going. Because so many people, so many good organizations, they don't have a blueprint. And it's like, how are you going to build this house to be all that you want it to be if you don't have your blueprint? You're not gonna, you're going to miss a wall or two, and that's bad. You got to have the blueprint, you know? Anyway, so that makes me very excited.
If I could add just one bit of a clarification for that, I want every single nonprofit to apply. I don't care how young you are or how long you've been, because we'll evaluate that. And the thing is, like, this is just the beginning for us. And we would love to have you engage with us. We'd love to have a conversation with you. Yeah. And help you understand, hey, even if I'm not ready for this grant, I still want to help you. Yeah. So,
in this space. So this is a huge announcement. This is big. And I was like, yes, this is fantastic. You know, Emilee, you and Clay have talked about this a lot, and y'all have had a lot of like talks as a family about this. Like, tell me from your point of view, like, how do you feel about all that's happening with this grant and what can happen on the broader mission? I just would love to hear from you.
Yeah, we're excited. We've always just dreamed of like being able to use just our resources and the money that we get from the business. We've always dreamed of doing something like, you know, whether it's coming and opening our own ministry or something it's just something that's always been on our heart. And so to see it have an open door to get to do something is just a huge blessing. And we're hopefully, it's like you said, it's just a start. I do want to say, like, Jesus is coming back. He's going to come back. And, but until then, you know, there is evil spreading in this world. And so, we have a choice to use what we have and where we're at, no matter what your job is. You know, it doesn't, you don't have to be, in a church or in ministry, like it doesn't matter. You can use your resources for good, and you can know that there's a greater purpose to what you're doing when you go to work. And that's really like everyone needs purpose, no matter who you are. And so, I know that when Clay gets up, he's not just thinking like, oh, I need to feed my family and I want to strive for a nice house. Like he has, what drives him is more of the deeper purpose of there's more than just ourselves, So that's exciting for us. That's what motivates us, is like, well, how can we do more? How can we reach others? Because at the end of your life, that's what's going to matter. It's not going to matter what your house looks like or any of that. So that was on my heart to say. And
well, thank you.
So
that's what I really appreciate that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I want to give a shout out to Don Miller. Donald Miller, he wrote a book called Hero on a Mission, and it kind of broke my team, unfortunately.
Yes,
I had my entire team read it, and and a couple people ended up being like, "Oh, my mission is not to be in marketing," and you know what? I'm glad. I'm glad. It hurt a little bit. I'm like, oh no, that was not the goal. But but the thing is, like, I went through the process, and I know that this is not a novel idea, but Don challenged us as all of the agency owners to write our own obituary. And that process, I think, really triggered a lot in me of thinking, why am I doing what I'm doing for the reason that I'm doing it?
Sure.
Because I don't care if someone gets up at the end of my life or writes in my obituary and says, Clay made a lot of money, or Clay was really successful. I don't care about that. Like, why would I don't want people saying that. I want people saying, hey, Clay and his family, that they made a lasting impact on the world. And they pointed everybody that they met to Jesus. And that's my goal. Yeah. That's what I want in my obituary. So start taking notes, folks.
Yeah. Not for any time soon, just to be clear, but like, as far as
long time from now.
A long time from now.
If the Lord wills.
Yeah, but in this galaxy. Yeah, sure. I love it.
No, that's great.
Well, where do y'all see the future, coming together? How do y'all see? I say y'all because I'm very, my text is coming out, right? And I'm like, hey, how do y'all see the future? But I'd love to hear first from you, Emilee, if I can get my words together, and ask you about, knowing that this is y'all's passion. Tell me about kind of just how you see y'all moving forward with the mission of what is Good Agency and Good Studio.
Moving forward? Oh.
It's a big question.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of things to say with that. We'll just continue to pray that God grows our resources so we can use it in bigger ways, and continue to try to find people that want to be involved in. We're still in the process of like, how do we do more? What does that look like in our lives? How do we get our kids involved in serving in our lives? And I think the passion for me is used just, I'm trying to get involved locally, just reaching young girls where I'm at. And so we're doing things like, on a weekly basis that as far as the company goes, I think, we'll see what happens. We're
we pray that God brings us more
out
brings us more clients and more team who are aligned with our values, who have the desire to be a part of something greater and also grow their business.
Yeah.
So that's what I hope is going to come.
We have a lot. We have more dreams. Those will never stop coming, and we'll just keep seeing how we can do more. But
that's great. Well, I'm so thankful because in the role that I'm in at the agency, I get to talk to a lot of these business owners like weekly, quite often, if not monthly. And I see them impacting the world for good. And I'm so thankful that there's so many business leaders out there who, at the end of the day, they've realized that the dollars are a bad goal and they have a purpose, and it's so cool to see like what they're doing to change the world for good, and they're all in. And there is a movement. I mean, I felt maybe some people don't feel it, maybe, but there is amongst people who are running businesses that they want to be the force of good against the forces of evil, like you mentioned earlier, Emilee. And I am just so thankful for all of the people who are engaged in that battle to impact the world for good. So I'm very thankful to both of you for all that y'all have. And I use the word sacrifice. I know y'all very well. And I know all the times that I sit in meetings with Clay and he's like, Emilee said this and this is some great wisdom. And I'm like, I'm so thankful Emilee said something, and all the changes that go on behind the scenes for the impact of good that y'all have brought into the world. And so this is very off script. I'm just going to say, thank y'all for your sacrifice. And I'm very excited about this grant because I'm just praying, and I know the Lord's going to bring the right organization. I know other organizations will be impacted, and there will be kids that will not be trafficked. And that is just so it's so important.
Yes.
And so thank y'all for letting me just sit here and talk with y'all about all these wonderful things happening. So.
Yeah. One thing, just to wrap up, because I know we're at time, but one thing that Billy Graham said before he died was that he believed that the next great revival was going to be in the workplace. And so my prayer is that through the workplace at Good Business and through our interactions with our clients, a revival will happen. And I'm a part of a mastermind with 6 or 7 other business owners across the country, and we're all praying for the same thing. And I'm hopeful that I get to be able to participate in that, and that we can just be a little drop in the ocean of all that God's doing. But yeah, that's my prayer out of all of this. So
Awesome. All right. Well, thank y'all for such a wonderful conversation today. So, and I'll let you wrap it up.
Awesome. Well, guys, James did a great job, didn't he? Give him a round of applause.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for tuning in to Good Business this week. I hope you were encouraged by this, and specifically, I hope you were encouraged to think about your purpose in business. Why are you doing what you're doing? Whether you work for a company or you work in a company, or maybe you're leading the company, I encourage you, think about what your purpose is. Think about your why. I want to recommend a book called Expert Ownership by David and Jason Benham. That book has been a huge game changer for me. And that's actually where I learned the quote from Billy Graham. So I highly recommend that book. And as we wrap up, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a 5-star on Apple Podcasts and anywhere else that you tune into your podcasts. Wish you guys a wonderful day, and we'll see y'all next time on Good Business.